Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we take your essential sources and transform them into crystal clear insights.
Today, we are stepping into a story that it really defines not just a sport, but an entire era of American history.
We are embarking on a deep dive into the extraordinary life of Jack Roosevelt Robinson, better known, of course, simply as Jackie Robinson.
And it's truly impossible to overstate his significance. When we talk about Robinson, we're not just talking about a gifted baseball player.
No, not at all.
We're analyzing a strategic force whose actions, both on and off the field, they established a foundational chapter in the 20th century American struggle for equality.
Okay, so let's unpack this mission for you. We all know the central event, right? Robinson was the first African-American player in Major League Baseball in the modern era.
Right, he broke that decades-old color line.
That pivotal symbolic moment was April 15, 1947, when he took the field at first base for the Brooklyn Dodgers.
And that single moment, it was like a cultural explosion. It signaled the definitive end of racial segregation in professional baseball.
A practice that it had exiled black players to the Negro Leagues since the 1880s.
For you, the listener, understanding this means recognizing that this was a societal earthquake. Our sources show he was chosen specifically because he possessed the character traits needed to dismantle segregation.
In a way that went so far beyond just the baseball diamond.
Exactly.
So our mission today is to trace that impact comprehensively. We're going to look at how his exceptional, undeniable talent and, critically, his commitment to a calculated program of nonviolence, how that challenged the very basis of segregation in American institutions.
We'll follow his journey from a multi-sport collegiate phenom through a harrowing military showdown to his revolutionary career in baseball.
And finally, into his hugely influential post-baseball life as a corporate vice president and a towering civil rights icon.
And to give you that immediate big picture of his influence, remember that Robinson's role didn't just stop when he hung up his cleats.
Not by a long shot.
He was a pioneer in so many fields. The first black television analyst in MLB, working on ABC's Game of the Week telecasts in 1965.
And this is hugely important for our deep dive into commerce.
Yes, he became the first black vice president of a major American corporation, Chalk Fullamets. He profoundly influenced American culture, earning the highest civilian honors posthumously.
The Congressional Gold Medal and the Presidential Medal of Freedom.
That's right.
And the most ubiquitous symbol of his legacy is, of course, his number 42.
In 1997, MLB made that unprecedented decision to retire his uniform number across all major league teams.
The very first professional athlete in any sport to be so honored.
And that decision, it just reflects the depth of his impact. When every player wears number 42 on Jackie Robinson Day every April 15th, it's not just recognizing a great player.
Yeah.
It's a ceremonial acknowledgement of the immense, non-negotiable personal burden he carried to open that door for everyone who came after him. It's a powerful, enduring tradition.
It really signals that his struggle is woven into the very fabric of the sport.
Absolutely.
So let's start at the beginning to really understand the foundation that created this extraordinary competitor. Robinson was born in Cairo, Georgia in 1919.
But his upbringing shifted dramatically when his father abandoned the family. His mother, Mally, she moved the entire family in 1920 to Pasadena, California.
And that's where he spent his formative years.
Right, and the environment in Pasadena is so key to understanding his early character. He grew up in relative poverty, a black family in a segregated neighborhood, surrounded by an otherwise affluent white community.
That disparity, I imagine, led to some early run-ins with racial exclusion and antagonism.
It did. Our sources note that he initially channeled his youthful restlessness into joining a local neighborhood gang.
But here is where family influence played an immediate critical role. He was strongly motivated by his siblings, especially his older brother Matthew, Mac, as he was known.
And Mac was already a world-class track and field athlete. To give you a sense of the bar set in that family.
Well, it was incredibly high.
Mac won a silver medal in the 200 meters at the 1936 Berlin Olympics, finishing only behind the legendary Jesse Owens.
Wow! In Berlin.
In Berlin. So seeing Mac achieve that level of success against that backdrop of global political tension, it clearly fired Jackie's own competitive drive.
And that drive, it just manifested in a multi-sport dominance that was truly astounding.
At John Muir High School, he didn't just participate, he excelled. He earned varsity letters in 4 sports: football, basketball, track, and baseball.
And if you look at the breadth of his ability, he wasn't just physical, he was agile, coordinated.
He even won the junior boys singles championship in the Pacific Coast Negro Tennis Tournament in 1936. By the time he left high school, the press was already calling him the outstanding athlete in the region.
He carried that dominance straight into Pasadena Junior College, or PJC.
He was the star quarterback, a safety, a shortstop, a track champion.
And here's where the raw numbers matter less than the achievement. He broke his own brother Mac's American Junior College broad jump record.
That athleticism, it is signaled to any observer that this was a talent that could not be contained or overlooked. He was named the region's most valuable player for baseball in 1938.
However, this is also where we see the first major signs of his non-passive nature, a trait that would later cause both trouble and triumph.
Yes. While he was at PJC, he had his first serious conflict with police in January of 1938.
What happened?
He was arrested after vigorously, challenging and protesting the detention of a black friend. He received a 2-year suspended sentence.
But the incident, along with other reported confrontations, it established a reputation for him.
The sources highlight his combativeness in the face of racial antagonism. And this is so important because it proves that the later famous decision not to fight back.
It was a monumental choice.
It was a choice, not an innate personality trait. He had to actively suppress a deep-seated instinct for justice.
Building on that reputation for uncompromising excellence, he transfers to the University of California, Los Angeles in 1939.
UCLA. And this is where he truly cements his legend, becoming the school's first ever athlete to win varsity letters in 4 different sports: baseball, basketball, football, and track.
His impact in football was particularly notable, especially in terms of integration.
Oh, absolutely. On the 1939 Bruins team, Robinson was one of 4 black players, alongside Woody Strode, Kenny Washington, and Ray Bartlett, which made UCLA college football's most integrated team at that time.
That level of integration was just so rare in high-level collegiate sports back then.
And his efficiency on the field was incredible. He was explosively effective, setting a school record for rushing yards per carry, demonstrating a game-breaking ability every single time he touched the ball.
So what's truly ironic, given his destiny, is that baseball was statistically his worst sport at UCLA.
It really was. In his one season, he only hit .097.
.097.
Yeah. But even in that minimal output, his trademark aggression just shone through. He stole home twice in his very first game.
That speed, that daring, that ability to disrupt the game simply by standing on the base path, that was always his hidden genius, even when his bat was struggling.
He eventually left college in 1941, just shy of graduating. And the decision was rooted in financial necessity. But our sources point to something more profound.
A disillusionment.
A deep disillusionment. He felt that the value of a degree for a black man in America in that era was drastically limited. He questioned whether the economic opportunities a degree afforded would justify the sacrifices.
Which is a powerful statement about the reality of the Jim Crow economic system, even in a place like California.
It is. Before the war intervened, he tried his hand at semi-professional, racially integrated football for the Honolulu Bears, but then Pearl Harbor brought that nascent career to a crashing halt.
The war, rather than offering a break from racial tension, immediately plunged him into one of the most defining moments of political resistance in his life.
His military service, where his refusal to accept segregation led to a high-stakes, career-threatening showdown.
So when Robinson was drafted in 1942, he was initially assigned to a segregated Army cavalry unit at Fort Riley, Kansas.
Right. And despite having the necessary background and intelligence, his application and the applications of other qualified black soldiers for officer candidate school OCS, they were just stonewalled for months.
Just pure institutional racism endemic in the military command structure.
Completely. And here's where we see the power of leveraging influence. It wasn't until heavyweight boxing champion Joe Louis, who was also stationed at Fort Riley, personally intervened.
He had to step in.
He did, along with assistance from political operatives like Truman Gibson. Only then did the military relent. Robinson was finally accepted and commissioned as a second lieutenant in January 1943.
It just shows you that even to get a basic opportunity, extraordinary political pressure was required.
But the real conflicts came later, after his transfer to Fort Hood, Texas, to join the famed 761st Black Panthers Tank Battalion.
Okay, so this is July 1944. He's on an Army bus.
And crucially, the Army operated its own bus line, which, by military regulation, was supposed to be unsegregated.
Right. That's the key detail.
So when the civilian bus driver ordered Robinson, a commissioned officer, to move to the back, Robinson knew the rules. He stood his ground. He He refused the order.
He simply refused to comply with an unlawful order that violated the Army's own policy.
Hmm?
This led to a furious confrontation with military police.
He was not passive.
Yeah.
Our sources indicate he later confronted the investigating duty officer about the overtly racist questioning he and his assistant had received.
And that officer retaliated by recommending that Robinson be court-martialed for insubordination.
The initial charges were sweeping and, frankly, absurd. They were designed to smear him, including public drunkenness. Despite the fact that Robinson was a known teetotaler, he didn't drink.
His commanding officer in the 761st, Paul Bates, he initially refused to authorize the charges, right?
He did, which signals that even within that segregated system, some superiors recognized the injustice. But Robinson was quickly transferred to another battalion, whose commander promptly consented to the charges.
The court-martial took place in August 1944. And although the charges were reduced to 2 counts of insubordination, the stakes were just incredibly high for a young black officer during wartime.
And the stunning outcome was that he was acquitted.
By an all-white panel of 9 officers.
Yes, and that is a testament not just to the brilliance of his defense, but to the fact that his actions, based on military regulations, were fundamentally correct.
So what was the consequence?
While he was acquitted, the proceedings prohibited him from being deployed overseas. It meant he missed combat service with the 761st Tank Battalion. He received an honorable discharge in November 1944.
And this entire ordeal, it provided an indelible record of his willingness to fight institutional segregation, a record that Branch Rickey would later review with great interest.
That's the key. After the discharge, he coached basketball at Samuel Houston College. It was during this period that an opportunity arose in professional baseball.
He signed with the Kansas City Monarchs of the Negro American League in 1945 for $400 a month.
Statistically, he was dominant. He played shortstop and hit a robust .387. But the personal experience, it was hugely disappointing for him.
Why was that?
Having come from the highly structured, disciplined world of collegiate sports and military life, he was utterly appalled by the Negro League's disorganization.
The relentless travel, the presence of gambling interests that pervaded the environment.
Exactly. He didn't view it as a true professional operation. He longed for the kind of structured professional discipline he associated with organized white baseball.
Ironically reinforcing the very structure he was about to challenge. And this era includes a moment of deep personal humiliation that we have to address. The tryout for the Boston Red Sox on April 16, 1945.
This tryout was a textbook example of performative activism. It was a complete farce, hastily arranged just to appease a local city councilman who was loudly pushing for desegregation.
So Robinson and the other black players were essentially used as props.
Completely. They were subjected to overt racial epithets shouted from the stands, which were supposedly limited only to team management.
He left that day feeling profoundly degraded.
And the irony, which our sources highlight, is that the Red Sox were the last major league team to integrate their roster. They waited a full 14 years after that sham tryout.
It just underscores the deep institutional resistance that remained, even as his own breakthrough was just around the corner.
Exactly.
This brings us to 1945, and the moment baseball history was irrevocably changed. General Manager Branch Rickey's calculated, monumental undertaking, the noble experiment.
Rickey was looking for a specific man to break the color barrier, and Robinson was his choice.
His decision-making process was this fascinating blend of morality and, well, shrewd business.
It was. He knew integrating baseball was the right thing to do, but he also knew the Dodgers could tap into an enormous pool of untapped talent, giving them a competitive advantage.
So he selected Robinson from a lengthy list of promising black players, not just for his undeniable athletic ability,
but because of his documented history of resistance, including that court-martial and the specific way he handled himself.
Rickey's core requirement, the absolute linchpin of the experiment, was psychological.
It was all psychological. He needed a player who could withstand the intense, constant, guaranteed racial abuse without retaliating.
So he wouldn't give the racists a pretext to condemn the entire integration effort.
That's it. And the famous dramatic meeting took place on August 28, 1945. It lasted 3 intense hours.
Robinson, fully aware of his own combative history, finally asked Rickey if he was looking for a black player who was afraid to fight back.
The tension in that room must have been palpable.
Rickey's reply is now immortalized in history. He said he needed a player with guts enough not to fight back.
He didn't want a coward. He wanted a man who could absorb unimaginable aggression and turn the other cheek.
a commitment Robinson had to maintain for 3 long years. He was being asked to perform a profound act of passive resistance on a national stage.
And once Robinson agreed to this incredibly heavy psychological contract, Rickey formally signed him to the International League Farm Club, the Montreal Royals, for $600 per month.
The agreement was kept completely secret for a while before being publicly announced, launching the experiment that would change America.
But that decision caused internal controversy. We need to remember that many people, including established Negro League stars like Satchel Paige and Josh Gibson,
They were genuinely upset.
they were. They felt Robinson, while great, was not the single absolute best player available. And this raises an important point of nuance.
Rickey was prioritizing character and control over sheer statistical dominance at that moment.
Indeed. Larry Doby, who followed Robinson into the majors, later echoed the sentiment that Gibson, the legendary catcher, was perhaps the true best player.
And that being overlooked led to a profound sadness that contributed to his early death.
Rickey wasn't selecting the best player. He was selecting the best symbol and the best psychological warrior for the specific battle ahead.
The 1946 minor league season revealed the hostility immediately. Spring training in segregated Florida was, well, it was open warfare.
Clay Hopper, the Royals manager, a Mississippian, was so uncomfortable that he actually asked Rickey to assign Robinson elsewhere.
And Robinson couldn't stay with his white teammates. He had to lodge off-site with a black couple, Joe and Dufferin Harris.
And the resistance wasn't just individual, it was institutional. Our sources detail active, deliberate sabotage. Police chiefs in Sanford canceled games at the last minute.
In Jacksonville, the city's parks director had the stadium padlocked shut without warning.
In DeLand, a day game was postponed with the laughable excuse that there were problems with the stadium's non-existent electrical lighting.
They were just doing everything possible to stop him from playing.
And that's when the shift came. When the team traveled north to Canada, the atmosphere changed completely.
Montreal?
In Montreal, he found his paradise. The fan base embraced him enthusiastically. His presence caused attendance figures to soar.
Over 1 million people attended games involving Robinson in the International League in 1946 alone.
He was a sensation, and the Royals won the Little World Series. His performance silenced any remaining baseball arguments.
In his Royals debut, he became the first black player to openly compete for a minor league team against a major league team since the 1880s.
And he led the International League with a .349 batting average and demonstrated remarkable defensive skills with a .985 fielding percentage.
Earning him the league's MVP award, he had done his part. The stage was set for the majors.
It was.
So we moved to 1947 and the barrier breaks. The Dodgers called him up just 6 days before the season started. At 28, he was relatively old for a rookie.
Right. And he played first base initially, as the incumbent second baseman, Eddie Stanky, was firmly established.
His MLB debut, April 15, 1947, at Ebbets Field, was a cultural landmark.
Over 26,000 people attended. And the most striking statistic is that over 14,000 of those spectators were black.
Wow. So integration wasn't just happening on the field, it was changing the audience demographic immediately.
Instantly. Black fans across America became Dodgers fans, often abandoning their beloved Negro League teams in the process.
Which caused a devastating economic drain on the Negro Leagues. That's an important, often sad footnote to this triumph.
It is. But internal resistance was also immediate. There was a dangerous level of racial tension in the clubhouse. Some white Dodger players were plotting a potential strike.
A direct act of mutiny against the integration.
And it was manager Leo Durocher who, in a famous confrontation, decisively ended that rebellion. He understood the economics of the situation.
He told the dissenting players, and this is a powerful, blunt quote,
He said, "I do not care if the guy is yellow or black or if he has stripes like a fucking zebra. I'm the manager of this team, and I say he plays. What's more, I say he can make us all rich."
He grounded the integration in undeniable performance and the lure of winning money. That managerial stand was essential.
Absolutely essential to unifying the team. And the external hostility was even more pronounced. The most serious threat came from the St. Louis Cardinals,
who were rumored to be plotting a league-wide strike to protest playing against a black player.
This is where baseball's leadership stepped up decisively. National League President Ford Frick, along with Commissioner Happy Chandler, they shut the plot down immediately and ruthlessly.
They let the entire league know that any player who participated in a strike would be instantly suspended.
Frick reportedly stated, "I do not care if half the league strikes. Those who do it will encounter quick retribution. I don't care if it wrecks the National League for 5 years.
That uncompromising stance, publicly backed by the media, it proved that the institution of baseball would support the experiment.
But Robinson still faced brutal abuse from opposing dugouts. Phillies players and manager Ben Chapman were among the worst, shouting relentless racial slurs. It was dehumanizing.
And yet, Branch Rickey later offered this surprising perspective, saying that Chapman's extreme behavior, ironically, did more than anybody to unite the Dodgers.
The sheer hatred galvanized the team against an outside enemy. And the physical abuse was constant, too. He received a notorious 7-inch gash on his leg from a spike wielded by Eno Slaughter.
The psychological toll of that non-retaliation mandate must have just been immense.
It had to be. But he did receive crucial support. Lee Jeep Hamley of the Phillies was cited by Robinson as the first opposing player to genuinely wish him well.
And then there's the iconic moment involving his teammate and shortstop Pee Wee Reese.
In Cincinnati, where the hostility was extreme, Reese walked over and put his arm around Robinson. A silent gesture that spoke volumes, confirming he was, indeed, one of the team.
He also connected with Jewish baseball star Hank Greenberg, who understood the experience of facing ethnic slurs on the field.
Greenberg offered vital, specific advice. Don't just endure the criticism. Defeat your critics by dominating the game.
And across the league, he maintained frequent telephone communication with Larry Doby,
who broke the American League color barrier just 11 weeks later with the Cleveland Indians. They offered each other mutual support through their shared, singular ordeal.
Despite the unprecedented pressure, his rookie year, 1947, was a statistical success.
He won the inaugural Major League Baseball Rookie of the Year award, led the NL with 29 stolen bases and 28 sacrifice hits.
And the Dodgers won the pennant. Robinson became the first black player to appear in the World Series, which they lost in 7 games to the Yankees.
His non-retaliation mandate ended after those 3 years, allowing him to transition from a figure of passive resistance to an outspoken, dominant competitor.
Right. So after Eddie Stanky was traded, Robinson moved to his natural position, second base, in 1948. He hit a respectable .296, but it was the spring of 1949 that saw his true statistical explosion.
He sought out George Sisler, a Hall of Famer and then an advisor to the Dodgers, for batting advice. Sisler's tutoring was instrumental.
In what way?
In honing Robinson's ability to hit to the opposite field and master fastballs, stopping him from lunging at pitches. And that effort paid off dramatically. His average jumped from .296 to a league-leading .342 in 1949.
That was his statistical peak. That dominant year earned him the National League batting champion title, 37 stolen bases, and 124 RBIs.
He was recognized with the National League Most Valuable Player Award, becoming the first black player to win the highest individual honor in the sport.
He was also voted the starting second baseman for the 1949 All-Star Game, the first All-Star Game to feature black players.
This period of triumph was briefly overshadowed by a politically charged event in 1949. He was reluctantly called to testify before the House Un-American Activities Committee, or HUAC.
Right. This wasn't about baseball. This was a tactic of the anti-communist Red Scare.
He was asked to testify to counter previous statements made by the famous black baritone and activist Paul Robeson, who's accused of making pro-Soviet comments.
The significance of the HUAC testimony is that Robinson, having just completed his nonviolence commitment, was now forced into a new public relations battle.
He feared that refusing to testify might jeopardize the progress of integration. While he distanced himself from Robeson's political ideology, he was careful to affirm his own right to speak out against segregation.
This incident really marked his shift from being Ricky's tightly controlled experiment to an independent, albeit cautious, political voice.
By 1950, he was a superstar. He led the NL in double plays by a second baseman and was the highest-paid player on the Dodgers, earning $35,000.
He even took on the unusual step of starring as himself in the film biography, The Jackie Robinson Story, with actress Ruby Dee playing his wife, Rachel.
The New York Times noted his calm assurance and composure on screen.
But off-field friction was brewing. Dodgers co-owner Walter O'Malley grew antagonistic toward Robinson, reportedly referring to him as Ricky's prima donna.
And when Branch Rickey's contract expired at the end of 1950, O'Malley forced him out. This was a massive personal blow to Robinson.
He considered Rickey a father figure and found himself increasingly isolated from the person who had given him his chance.
The organizational landscape around him was changing, forcing him to rely more fully on his own voice.
So as we move into the 1950s, Robinson's story transitions from a struggle for entry to a fight for lasting equity.
That's a great way to put it. Post-1951, he had shed the cloak of non-retaliation and became a far more outspoken, aggressive voice for civil rights, using his massive platform strategically.
And on the field, he adapted his role. From 1952 onward, he transitioned into a utility player.
Right, he played first, third, short, and the outfield, as Jim Gilliam took over the everyday second base duties. He maintained his dedication and had crucial moments.
Especially during the legendary 1951 pennant race against the Giants.
His performance in the last game of that regular season was nothing short of heroic. He singled to tie the game in the 13th inning, then hit a home run in the 14th to force a playoff.
And even after the Dodgers lost the pennant on Bobby Thompson's shot heard round the world, Robinson demonstrated his unflagging competitive integrity.
The sources recount that he was the one who ensured Thompson touched all the bases, showing Vin Scully, who was broadcasting the game, how much of a competitor Robinson was.
It was always about the integrity of the game, even in defeat.
And beyond the field, his activism became increasingly direct. In 1952, he appeared on the television show Youth Wants to Know,
And publicly challenged the New York Yankees general manager George Weiss on the Yankees' blatant failure to integrate their own team. That was a massive public critique.
He was using his visibility as leverage everywhere. He served as an editor for our sports magazine, focusing on Negro sports issues, ensuring coverage of black athletes beyond baseball.
And crucially, he openly and forcefully criticized segregated establishments that serve the Dodgers, like hotels and restaurants.
This direct pressure, where he leveraged his fame to threaten public exposure, led directly to several major establishments, including the five-star Chase Park Hotel in St. Louis, integrating their facilities.
This was activism with immediate, tangible results.
And despite the success, the external pressure never stopped. Throughout the early 50s, he continued to face a stream of death threats.
Yet he kept playing, leading the league in on-base percentage in 1952, demonstrating that his dedication remained fierce, even as he used his public role to challenge the system.
And in 1955, he finally achieved the ultimate team goal. He won his only World Series championship when the Dodgers defeated the Yankees.
Ironically, this was statistically his worst individual year. He hit only .256.
Which suggests that by this time, his greatest value was in leadership and presence, rather than pure metrics.
By 1956, the physical toll, compounded by what was later diagnosed as the onset of diabetes, was apparent.
He was 37, experiencing various health issues, and he admitted to losing the intense interest required to compete or even manage professional baseball.
His major league career ended with a strikeout to conclude Game 7 of the 1956 World Series. What followed was a massive piece of drama that showed his shifting priorities.
He was traded to the rival New York Giants. But the trade was immediately voided because, unbeknownst to the Dodgers, Robinson had already finalized a deal to retire.
And transitioned into a corporate executive role.
He had sold the exclusive rights to his retirement story to Look magazine, meaning the news of his retirement was broken by the magazine, not his former team or the acquiring team.
He officially retired on January 5, 1957. Later that same year, the health issues he had been managing were confirmed to be diabetes, a disease that would unfortunately progress.
Which led to heart problems and near blindness by middle age. His immediate post-baseball career in the business world is arguably as historically significant as his entry into MLB.
From 1957 to 1964, he served as the vice president for personnel at Chock-full of Nuts.
And you have to think about the significance of that. He became the first black American to serve as a vice president of a major American corporation. This wasn't a symbolic role.
No, it was a high-level executive position. This move was deeply intentional.
Robinson saw this corporate career as absolutely critical for advancing black people in commerce and industry. If he had pursued coaching or managing, he would have been contained within the sports world.
By becoming a VP of personnel, he was positioned to directly influence hiring, promotion, and management practices in white-collar America.
It was a fundamental proof of black competency and leadership outside of athletics and entertainment. This was a direct, structural attack on economic segregation.
Robinson's post-baseball life was characterized by relentless civil rights engagement and a fiercely independent, often controversial political stance.
His work didn't slow down after he left the field or the corporate desk. He continued his civil rights efforts tirelessly, chairing the NAACP's critical $1 million Freedom Fund drive.
And he served on its board until 1967. His focus was always on structural empowerment and economic control, which is a powerful insight into his worldview.
He put that focus into action in the business world. In 1964, he was instrumental in founding the Freedom National Bank, a black-owned and operated commercial bank in Harlem.
He served as the first chairman of the board. And later, in 1970, he established the Jackie Robinson Construction Company with the mission of building quality housing for low-income families.
These weren't just affiliations. These were concrete, business-minded efforts to establish economic sovereignty within the Black community.
His political life was complex. He identified as an independent thinker, often frustrating both sides of the aisle.
He did. While he initially supported Richard Nixon in 1960, his commitment was always to civil rights first. He later praised John F. Kennedy effusively for his stance.
His moral compass dictated his political choices, regardless of party affiliation.
And this conviction led to a highly public and definitive break with the Republican Party in 1964.
He was utterly infuriated by conservative Republican Senator Barry Goldwater's opposition to the landmark Civil Rights Act of 1964.
After the party nominated Goldwater, Robinson famously left the convention, commenting in a dramatic break that he now had a better understanding of how it must have felt to be a Jew in Hitler's Germany.
That extreme language shows the depth of his anger when he felt civil rights were being betrayed. He later actively campaigned for Hubert Humphrey against Nixon in 1968.
And his activism remained direct, even physical, well into his post-playing career. In 1960, he initiated the Greenville Airport protest in South Carolina.
He refused to leave the whites-only waiting room, a direct act of civil disobedience.
He followed this with a powerful NAACP speech urging Black citizens to use their vote and protest against second-class citizenship. This action quickly led to the desegregation of the airport.
Unfortunately, his later years were profoundly difficult, marked by both physical decline and personal tragedy.
His complications from heart disease and diabetes advanced rapidly, eventually leaving him almost completely blind.
And the great personal tragedy centered on his eldest son, Jackie Robinson Jr.
After serving in the Vietnam War, where he was wounded, Jackie Jr. struggled significantly with drug problems. Robinson Sr. was publicly open about his son's struggles, which was unusual at the time.
Jackie Jr. eventually found success as a counselor at Daytop Village, but tragically died in a 1971 car accident at the age of 24.
This profound loss spurred Robinson Sr. to devote his final energy to becoming a tireless anti-drug crusader.
Robinson made his final public appearance only 9 days before his death. On October 15, 1972, he threw the ceremonial first pitch before Game 2 of the World Series.
He accepted a plaque marking the 25th anniversary of his MLB debut. But true to his character, he didn't end the speech with simple gratitude.
No, he issued a final demand.
He used that public stage to challenge the baseball establishment directly, saying, "I'm going to be tremendously more pleased and more proud when I look at that third base coaching line one day and see a black face managing in baseball."
Even in his final moment, frail and suffering, his focus was not on his own past, but on the future of Black opportunity and leadership equity.
He died of a heart attack at his home on October 24, 1972, at the age of 53. His funeral was attended by 2,500 mourners, and he was buried next to his son, Jackie Jr., in Brooklyn.
When we look back at his playing career, his statistics confirm he was a top player, regardless of the social context.
A .311 career batting average and a magnificent .409 career on-base percentage. Analysts like Bill James place him among the top 35 players of all time purely based on his on-field performance.
It confirms Ricky's gamble paid off in talent as well as morality, and his style of play defined an era of dynamic baseball.
He had 197 career stolen bases, including 19 steals of home, none of which were easy double steals. He is widely cited as the father of modern base stealing.
That incredible combination of speed, hitting, and top-tier defense earned him Hall of Fame induction on the very first ballot in 1962.
And his enduring legacy also rests with his family. His wife, Rachel Robinson, went on to establish the Jackie Robinson Foundation, which provides significant scholarships.
And which opened the Jackie Robinson Museum in 2022. The legacy is thus not just historical, but an ongoing engine for fostering opportunity and leadership, echoing his own final wishes.
It is.
So let's recap the immense layered life of Jackie Robinson for you, the learner. He transitioned from being a multi-sport college star to facing down and defeating institutional segregation in the military.
He bore the monumental psychological burden of Branch Rickey's noble experiment with calculated nonviolent strength, achieved revolutionary success in MLB.
And then pivoted to become a pioneering executive in business and a fearless independent force in civil rights.
Martin Luther King Jr. rightly called him a legend and a symbol in his own time, who challenged the dark skies of intolerance. His lifelong fight was fundamentally for entry, equity, and opportunity.
He secured that entry, and we know his final public wish to see a black manager was eventually fulfilled 2 years after his death by Frank Robinson.
Hired by the Cleveland Indians in 1974.
But here's the provocative final thought we want to leave with you. While the number 42 symbolizes the success of securing entry, the sources note a deeply concerning trend.
The overall percentage of black American players in Major League Baseball has actually declined significantly since the high point of the 1970s.
And furthermore, representation in the front office, ownership, and coaching staff remains a persistent challenge.
So given Robinson's lifelong commitment to equality, not just on the baseline, but in the boardroom, the voting booth, and the bank, the true deep dive question that his legacy demands we confront is this.
Has baseball, and by extension American society, truly upheld and fulfilled the promise of sustained opportunity and true leadership representation that Jackie Robinson risked everything he had, his career, his sanity, and his health to secure?
That is the challenge that his legacy leaves us to continue exploring.